Hi, hello, lovely to see you. I normally don't do my content or videos in this format, and I also normally don't wear a suit in them, but I'm at the office right now and I don't have it in me to make a bunch of short form, quick cut TikToks. And I figured I'd just get comfortable talking to the camera without relying on editing afterwards. And every healthy relationship is just about candid conversation, so I figured I'd practice that here with you. So I wanted to give a few updates and just talk about what's going on within 42, which is our brand, our startup, and what we're working on, what we're worried about, and how things are going. So for some context, I am in Washington, D.C., working full-time, not on 42, but rather at a tech startup. It's in GovTech. I'm not going to name it here, but there's no work in fashion or consumer, despite what this beautiful suit might suggest. We are contracting with the government, building machine learning models for them, and it's very stressful. The bright side is that this is a company I would be working for if I didn't have 42, regardless. So it's something that I'm passionate about, government policy, tech, like that space is something that I'd be working in independent of 42. But given current affairs and the administration change, this is a very stressful job at the moment. There are weeks where I'm in the office or working on work for up to 80 to 90 hours a week. And it's very overwhelming when when you're trying to build a brand on the side as well, or build a company that has an audience or whatever. And at the same time, my co-founders, Milo and Kenny, are 3 time zones away at Stanford. Both of them have a full course load. They're both full-time students, probably spending just as much time on school as I am on work. So all of us have very little time to work on 42, which means that the time that we do get to work on 42 independently and the very little time we get to work on it all together when our times line up has to be spent very intentionally, which is why we've kind of figured out this container system. The ultimate goal with 42 as a company, as a brand, as whatever you want to call it, is to be at the ideal intersection of fashion, media, and technology. So we've all just kind of taken charge or taken lead of one of these containers, and right now we're in a bit of an exploration or research phase. I've made a few TikToks about this, but the goal at the moment, given just the pace that we're going and the time that we have available to us, is to become as secure and as knowledgeable in these containers as we possibly can, which means understanding the foundation and the fundamentals of these things. So specifically for fashion, which Milo is in charge of, he is spending most of his time doing hands-on product work. He's sewing and he's buying yards of fabric that he's storing in his small little dorm room, and he's cutting out patterns and figuring out construction and stitching and researching with manufacturers and supply chains and stuff like that. Because although we've done pretty well for 42 or 42 up until this point in terms of creating products that resonate with people visually or thematically, we care just as much about making products that are high quality and have a lot of love and passion put into the actual design and construction, and making that clear to whoever's wearing it or seeing it. And that's what Milo is focusing on right now. Now, the challenge with that is that in any product development process within the fashion space is that there are so many bottlenecks that are just out of your hands that you cannot control. For example, if there's something that Milo has prototyped or sampled and he's ordering it from a overseas manufacturer, there is nothing we can do to get around the 6-week lead time that's going to take. And that really does hinder the research process when you're trying to fail fast and learn faster. And that's just something that we're trying to solve as we go. It's part of entrepreneurship is to solve these things, but it's stressful and it's annoying and it's expensive, as with all other things in the business. As for the tech side, Kenny is in charge of that. Really, the biggest thing is just figuring out what a good digital experience looks like on the consumer side. Kenny has a lot of professional experience writing code and building for B2B companies or at large tech companies. And the goal right now is to figure out how to channel all of that knowledge and all of that experience into a 3-man team that builds delightful software experiences for people, for users. Not clients, not businesses, not institutions, but people. And what does that really mean? What does value provision really look like in that field? What does connecting with somebody through software look like? That's what we're trying to figure out. That's what Kenny's taking the lead on. And materially what that looks like is Kenny and Milo are building a consumer mobile app, partially for a class, but actually long-term for the brand. The beauty of 42 is that we can build anything and it can become part of the brand if we figure out the right way to integrate it. And separately, I am working on my own side project that's also in the consumer space that I am seeking guidance from Kenny or advice from Kenny whenever I need it. So hopefully by the time we're all full-time living together, we're all somewhat up to speed when it comes to developing, so we can ship things really, really fast and put out consumer experiences like as often as possible. Again, going back to like the fail fast and learn faster thing. For media, which I am in charge of, there are a lot of different channels that there are to figure out. First and foremost is the brand account. The problem with the brand account is that it's not so spray and pray. You can't just put out a ton of content every week and see what works and what doesn't work, because there is a matter of brand image and reputation that we have to upkeep and that we have to maintain. So, in the past, our solution to that has been putting a ton of effort and resources into these week-long campaigns that will spend months planning a video shoot or a photo shoot and then execute it with professionals. But right now, given the fact that we're all separate and that we may not have all of the resources that we need, the challenge is figuring out how to create that much quality with more constraints, with less resources. And that's fun. It really challenges your creative thing, your creative skills, and that's something that I haven't really personally had experience with in any of the professional experiences that I've had. And then kind of the steps there are, how do we deliver high quality media that speaks to the narrative or the image that we want as a brand, that resonates with people, but do it low cost and sustainably. And I think sustainably is really the difficult one here, because it's not just you can do one campaign and then move on. You've got to do something new every week or every day, and you have to keep people interested and engaged. So we're testing out different formats for what that looks like, and we found a couple of solutions that we're going to ship in the next couple of weeks. And then of course I have my personal content to worry about as well. I think for me, this is part of 42. This is part of the marketing channel, putting a face to it. But personal content creation is super weird, man. Super strange. Never thought I'd be doing it. I was never completely opposed to it. I just didn't have anything to talk about until we started 42. But it's weird. Setting up a camera, putting myself out there like this is weird. Even this is super weird, but at least there's an element of candidness and conversationalism here that I can grasp a little bit easier. But coming to terms with that is strange. All that being said, I think this is a very eye-opening and interesting phase for all of us, because we're learning so quickly, we're learning so many things, and we're collaborating, and we're learning how to provide feedback to one another, and we're learning how to communicate to each other in an effective way, and closing the gap of actual physical distance, and also just keep shipping and keep producing output for people and for customers and for users or whatever. At a personal level with life, this is a particularly stressful period, just because I do have two things to worry about kind of full time. But I don't think I would be doing it if I didn't enjoy this, and I do. So there is that. I think this is the time to be doing this. There are days or moments where it's overwhelmingly stressful and I question the merit or the validity of what I'm doing. But generally, I've just found that stress is inaction in some form. I think there's a quote about that, but don't quote me. You know what I'm saying? And so I've just learned to cope with that stress by taking more action or producing more output or doing what I have to do. And then there's more stress within that of okay, so then what is it that I do? What is it that I should be spending my time on? And then you just kind of spiral. But the closer, the faster you can get to just making something or putting something out there, or delivering something or testing something or whatever, the less stress that you will experience. At least that's been my experience with this. I'm not trying to make a motivational video or anything like that. This is more for me than it is for you. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. If you've watched this entire thing, then I love you. You know what I'm saying? Bye-bye.